the great hall of the Justice League, there are assembled the world's 4 greatest heroes, created from the cosmic legends of the universe.
Johnny Rocket, Rodger Paxton, Chris Spangle, Marc, Clair,
Hey, this is Johnny Rocket, and I'm here with the League of Liberty podcasters, and I'm here with Mr. Rodger Paxton from the Lava Flow.
What's up, everybody? Good to be here again.
And we're here with Mr. Chris Spangle from We Are Libertarians.
Hello, Johnny. How are you?
Good, sir. Good, sir. And last but not least, Mr. Marc Clair from the Lines of Liberty.
What's up, bro?
What's up? And anyway, so this is Johnny Rocket, and we are here because we are a badass team of superheroes defeating evil, defeating statism, and defeating the Legion of Doom. Fuck those guys. That's all I got to say. And these guys actually called my brother.
I don't know why you're giving this free advertising.
Yeah, don't promote them.
You got to pay for advertising on this program.
That's why I don't vote, because voting just legitimizes the bastards. If you talk about the bastards, you're just legitimizing them. Fuck them.
Rodger, what's the worst, the Legion of Liberty Doom or voting?
Voting.
Nope,
yes.
wrong. Wrong. Fake news.
So
Wrong,
I'm
you're out of
not,
the league.
I'm not that bad. But again,
They're all a collection
we are
of
the
cunts.
League of Liberty podcasters, and we're here with our superhero team. And I am glad to be here. And we have discussed these ideas of a possible show regarding conspiracy theories. And I don't know if we want to go there, but we can.
We're going to go there.
We're going to go there. Fuck it. Okay, so we'll start off with Marc Clair, since this is your kind of gig. You do a Lines of Liberty thing called Conspiracy Corner, or
That's true.
as you call it.
That's not a conspiracy theory. That's a true
CC, Lines of Liberty, CC. All right, so what's the deal? So what is everyone's, why don't we start with this? What is everyone's favorite conspiracy? And if there is a conspiracy, why do you believe it's true? And explain your position. So I'm going to start with Mr. Rodger Paxton, who is muted right now.
I have a
You caught me
question
in the middle of
before
vaping. Shit.
we even get into this.
No.
I want to clarify the premise, because favorite conspiracy theory, is that like one you like the most or one you believe the most?
Okay. One you believe the most. I think that's the best one to
Also,
go.
I'm going to throw up any minute, just so you guys know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm so
there you go.
incredibly
There you
Just
go.
make sure you record it. But the one that I like the most is the one that Scarlett Johannsen is secretly in love with me. That's my favorite conspiracy theory. But
That would be
one
the
I
least believable conspiracy of all time.
I didn't say it was believable. I just said it was the one I liked. But no, the one that I believe in the most, I guess, is probably TWA Flight 800. Just because there were way too many eyewitness accounts. The percentage of eyewitness accounts that saw,
Can I ask you to stop there and explain that, because I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah, so this
I
was
read
in
a
the
whole
90s.
book about this once.
Yeah, this was in the 90s. TWA Flight 800 was leaving the ground and was flying over the ocean as it took off, and it all of a sudden exploded in midair and fell to the ground, fell to the ocean. Everybody died. So in this conspiracy theory, the theory is that there has been identified as, no question, there were naval exercises happening in the area at the time, and the theory is that a missile was fired from one of those naval ships accidentally and took out the airliner. So there were so many eyewitness reports that mentioned some streak of light coming from the surface to the air, and then a fireball explosion exploding the airplane. That seemed, with the number of eyewitness accounts saying the exact same thing from different divergent areas around the situation, that's pretty believable to me, because you have actual eyewitness testimony, not one or two. We're talking dozens and dozens of people who said that they saw the same thing from different areas and different angles. So that seems pretty believable to me.
That's great.
That's great, says Johnny. A whole bunch of people died, and they might have been shot down by the U.S. government. That's
Love
great.
it.
No, I was
Love it.
actually-
Moving on. That's fantastic.
No,
Next
no,
contestant.
stand by. I was referring
On the next
to.
episode of Most Inspiring Conspiracy Theories.
Well, and this is why
All
I'm
right.
saying I prefer the one that Scarlett Johannsen is secretly in love with me because that's one I like. Just saying.
That's the one I like too.
Well, you have sort of the Malaysia plane crashes along those lines where, Russia shot down an airliner, and that's the missing plane from Malaysia that nobody's ever found. Like,
Right.
What was it, 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Oh, I never heard that one. That's supposed to be the same plane?
Yeah, so there were 2 Malaysian planes that just disappeared, and allegedly Russia flew near the Ukraine, and so Russia shot down the plane and killed all those people, and then it was just like a month of where's the plane, where did it go? It's like triggered our Bermuda Triangle reflex, which I thought the Bermuda Triangle would be a much bigger deal as an adult than I did when I was a kid. So I never heard anybody disappearing in the Bermuda Triangle as an adult, but this was the closest that we've had in our lifetime. But I've heard, now that you mention it, I've heard that, because that's what put TWA out of business. I remember after reading it kind of going, there's some merit to that. There's got to be accidents where, like the Malaysian plane, where, oops, let's not take credit for this one. Let's just say it's a mystery and who knows what happened and it's a fuel cell.
Okay, so Marc Clair, welcome to the show.
Hello. Hi.
How you feeling, man?
I'm getting there.
What's wrong with
Okay.
you?
Oh, Chris wasn't here for when I was telling you
He's all fucked up, man.
how
It's
hungover
bad.
I am.
It's bad.
Yeah, neither were the listeners, which is why I'm asking.
Nor does he have a vagina. He was
The
actually
listeners have met
probably
me, and they
fucking
know
a
me
girl
better than
last
Chris
night.
Spangle does, apparently, so they just assume.
This
Okay,
is why
so-
I don't understand why adults give themselves the flu by drinking too much. It's ridiculous.
It's not a
It's
purpose.
awesome. It's fucking great.
I
Because
don't
at the
usually
time,
have a hangover.
it sounds like a good idea, but then the next day, no, it's not.
Well,
a
Mark,
good idea.
my thing is, you're old enough at this point to know your limits, right? I mean, surely you are, right?
Obviously,
Roger,
he didn't
we've
figure
met.
that shit out last night. All right, Mark, give us your favorite. How about this? Give us your favorite conspiracy, and then give us the one that you feel is the most important or believable in your idea.
Oh, I get 2? Cool.
You get 2.
Well, actually, if
Just
we're just going
because
to go
you're
straight
fucked up.
believable, I have one that I really think is true now. And
All
that
right.
is that Justin Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, is in fact the son of Fidel Castro.
Yes.
I am
They look alike.
100% on board this theory.
Yeah.
And it sounds ridiculous until you start looking up the story and the pictures of them, and they look almost freaking identical. And there's a completely believable timeline that adds up where her mother would have encountered Fidel Castro. So I absolutely believe that is true.
Okay.
You can't convince me otherwise. You can
Okay.
try, you can feebly try, but you can't do it.
There's a lot
right.
of those, like Prince Harry isn't the child of Prince Charles. Like if you look
Prince
at
Harry is Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Carson Wentz.
if you look at like the horse trainer that was around Princess Di around the time that Prince Harry was conceived, he looks just like that guy. There's been a few of those where you go, Chelsea Clinton isn't Bill Clinton's daughter. That's another conspiracy.
Well,
I
she
believe
does
that one
look very
because-
much. She looks very much like what's the guy? The fat guy that
Richard
was-
Nixon.
No, she looks very much like it was some advisor
Webb-
that the
is it
Clintons
Webb
had for a
Hubble?
while.
I think it was
Chris
Webb.
Christie.
Webb, yes, Hubble, yeah.
Yeah, Webb Hubble.
She does. She has a lot of the same facial features as this guy does. I mean, she looks nothing like Bill at all. So,
Right.
that's certainly possible. I mean, we know that Bill and Hillary did not have a very loving marriage. It was more of a partnership. So
Good to see them
certainly
get it
possible.
together now, though.
Well, they seem to be.
Okay. They seem to be. Okay.
That's because they never see each other anymore. I mean,
Right.
I'd get along great with my wife too if I'd ever saw her.
Oh, ow.
Damn, I'm making memes out of that quote.
No, my wife and I. It's funny because since I've been working from home now for the last 8 months or so, we're around each other.
She hates
24/7.
you now.
No.
She
Our
fucking hates
relationship
you.
our relationship has gotten stronger than ever. I mean, we have never gotten along better. Being around each other so much. It's
Okay,
great.
good. I love it. That's a great story, Roger.
Klonopin has really helped her a lot, though.
Oh, shit. Okay, so I'll
Marijuana.
give you guys mine. I
We're
guess I
still
would
on
have.
Mark, Johnny.
He's not. He's done.
I only told you my believable. I didn't get to tell you my favorite.
Just fucking get to it then. Goddamn.
Johnny, are you okay?
Johnny,
No,
okay.
Johnny,
man,
you're on.
I thought I was the asshole of the bunch.
No,
Fucking
goddamn,
get to
it's
it.
Get-
Do we have
God,
3
what the
minutes
fuck?
left in the show? Are we about to go off the air? What am I missing here? Why do we?
We got a strict timeline,
Are we up
motherfucker.
against a sponsored break? Like, what's
Yeah.
happening?
And now this message is brought to you by fucking Lava Flow Podcast. And
Who would be our
and
sponsor?
We are Libertarians. I mean, what the fuck? Okay, spit it out, motherfucker. Come on.
God damn. I don't want to spit it out. I want to just see you get mad at me not spitting it out. That's the only thing that I care about. Okay, I'm gonna get through another curveball. My favorite conspiracy theory is that the Earth is hollow inside, and that there's many creatures that live there, including possibly Bigfoot himself, and maybe some dinosaurs and some woolly mammoths, and maybe entire civilizations, maybe even UFOs and aliens and gray aliens and all the things and creatures that people have claimed to see throughout history. Maybe they all just live in there as one big happy hollow Earth family.
Unicorns too, I
beautiful.
guess.
Yeah,
That's beautiful.
all of them. Fuck it, put them all in there.
I like it. I like it. I love it. Okay, so there's a comic book artist, and I can't remember his name, but he came up with the idea
Back to dying now.
that the Earth is actually expanding in size, and that is why we were actually had all the Earth. It wasn't Pangea like what we learned in school. Is that it's actually expanding and getting bigger, and I thought it was really great. I forgot the artist's name, but he's a great artist actually.
Wait, does he really think that, or he just drew it?
No, he actually thinks this, and it's because he has the problem with India. That was his issue. Was we have India, and it just couldn't like skyrocket across the Pangea formation. So I thought it was really cool and interesting.
Can you explain that more? Because you just really glossed over that. Like, I'm going to know what you mean.
But
India,
my
okay.
brain went. The problem is that we have India, and I was like, wow, that's offensive to a whole continent of
India.
Johnny,
Not
Johnny,
bunch
we're
of-
each going to get a quote out of this show, and Johnny's the problem is we have India.
By the way, Johnny, the comic book artist was Neil Adams.
Neil Adams, a great guy, and I love his work. And thank you.
Yeah, he's done stuff for both DC and Marvel, so he's pretty prolific.
I'm going to
Very
take the
good.
other side and say that the problem is Pakistan.
Okay. Well, thank you, Rodger. Again,
problem
no
is
thanks to
Kashmir.
Chris Spangle. Thank you for nothing and that comment.
No, you guys gave
and
me
Marc
nothing on
Clair,
that.
fuck off. All right. So, anyways, what I'm saying is beautiful theory. I like the idea, and I think he stands by it. I mean, he's just like, this shit is real, and we are expanding. The Earth is expanding. And I think it's really interesting. What is believable, though, that's my favorite. I would have to say, oh, God, I'm going to go there. 9/11. I'm going to go 9/11. I'm going to go 9/11. I think it was, I don't know if it was an inside job, but I'm definitely going to say I question it. And,
my issue with that, my biggest issue with that is our government is so goddamned incompetent.
Right.
How in the hell could they pull off something like that and keep it a secret?
So
I don't buy it for a
incompetent
minute.
that they were able to go to the moon, Roger?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Come on.
I had to.
The vast majority of those people were civilian contractors that had anything to do with that shit. So the government had jack shit to do with that other than pumping money into it.
They are incompetent. I'm not saying that it was the government who did it. I'm just saying that it was covered. It could very well possibly be covered up. And I have questions about it. And I think there's some legitimacy to that. I'm not a big truther guy. I don't go on the radio and say, oh, I believe 9/11 was an inside job.
Why did you go on the radio at all? The radio.
Hey, I do once a month with Free Talk Live over
Actually,
200 radio stations.
I'm actually on the radio, Mark.
I know.
Okay.
But
All right.
it's just
So
fun
what
to
I'm
make fun
saying
of you
is
saying
I don't
radio.
go there, though, because I think I don't know if it needs to be said. I think if people want to research it, they can. I just think that it's something that's I really don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole 9 out of 10 times, but we're already fucking crazy because we're libertarians. People hate us because we're libertarians. Right. So I don't want to get into conspiracies, but I definitely think there is there's more to explore than what has been provided to us in information regarding 9/11.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on that one. I definitely think that we don't know the whole story, and we never will, just like with any major event like that. I can't go as far as to say there's a conspiracy cover-up, or especially that the government was involved, but there's no doubt that we don't know everything and never will. So to a certain extent, I don't disagree.
I don't know. If you read The Looming Tower and you read by Lawrence Wright, I think, and you read Ali Soufan's The Black Banners, you have a pretty good idea of how 9/11 happened, and it's American foreign policy and a failure by the CIA and the FBI. Like, 9/11 happened because one CIA person decided that they weren't going to share intelligence with the FBI, and so they couldn't arrest the two hijackers when they came in through security into the United States, the two of the people that flew the planes. So, like, I don't know what more people need or what could possibly have been covered up. Like, people mention World Trade Center 7, and I remember watching them because I watched it wall to wall. I was 18 at the time. Like, it was very impactful, all of it. And I remember them demoing World Trade 7 because it was a security risk it was going to fall over onto those trying to dig for people who are alive. So I don't know. Having been alive, having paid attention to it, having read about American foreign policy, I don't get where the holes are. Like, the reality of if the government perpetrated 9/11, think about what it would have taken. It would have taken how many people to implant explosives into these two buildings that actually, blew up, the World Trade and the Pentagon.
Right.
So you've got security forces going into the buildings, planting thermite. How many people are working late? How many security guards? How many contractors? How many people would it take realistically, or would have witnessed something funny going on as they were planting something that was hotter than jet fuel? Like so the government isn't like, we know when a false flag happens in Syria in 2013. Like, how many people? 1,000 people? Are we talking about got paid off or killed, and we haven't noticed that? Nobody's talked in 20 years. I just don't get where the hole is.
Okay, I'm hosting this show, so hold on.
So I never...
Rodger, really quick, give us your point in regards to what Chris had to say, but where were you during 9/11?
So during 9/11, I was working for Dell Computers as a phone tech support guy. So if you had a problem with your Dell computer, you called 1-800-DELL or whatever. I was on the other end.
There's Rodger.
You know what? All of a sudden,
fuck you.
You know what? Fuck you. Turn it off,
motherfucker.
Right. So I was young. This was one of my first real IT gigs, and I remember because we were obviously getting a pretty heavy call volume. Like always, it was a work day, and all of a sudden we weren't getting anything. It was like, what the fuck happened to our calls? Did they route them to another call center? What the hell's going on? And then somebody who had been taking a break in our break room, which had TVs and stuff in it, came out and started telling us what was going on. So I remember, distinctly, the calls just dropped. And, of course, they ended up closing our office because there was just no calls coming in. And there were call centers all over the country. So I went out to the car and just sat in the car for hours just listening to the radio. My girlfriend actually came to pick me up. We sat there just, bawling our fucking eyes out. It was terrifying. I remember the terror.
Yeah.
And actually, Jess and I were talking about that just the other day. Just the terror because you didn't know what was going to happen next, when it was going to come, who was involved. Just the not knowing was so scary. So that's what I was doing. But to Chris's point, Chris, I agree. There were a lot of, miscommunications, missed issues. My thing is, I don't think we know. I think there were probably a lot more, red flags out there that we don't know about that were missed.
Sure.
The one that you mentioned was a great one. But I think that when I say that there were cover-ups, I think a lot of those red flags have been covered up. I think that the government potentially had more information that something like this could happen than what we've been led to believe. I don't think they had specifics. But I definitely think that there were probably more red flags that have just not been talked about.
Okay, Chris, we're going to leave the best for last, and that's you, Mr. Marc Clair. Go ahead and tell us what your thoughts were on 9/11 and where were you and how did you feel?
Jesus Christ, how long you got?
5
You
minutes.
just,
We got
you
30
just
seconds.
described 3 hours of podcast.
How old were you guys?
On 9/11, I was 21 years old. I woke up in my fraternity house, and someone IM'd me on AOL Instant Message and said, "Turn on the TV." Turn on the TV. Saw that going down. One plane had already hit. Another one hits. Yada yada yada. And it's actually basically what got me interested in politics and in just understanding foreign policy, just on the base level. But there are many holes in the whole situation. Not that it the problem is the conflation of all conspiracy theories. It's like if actual instances where there are strange connections that you point out are not the same as saying there are. I'm like dying actually right now. There are laser beams that some people have theories there were like laser beams from space that were used to knock the towers down. Some people say that there were no planes. So there's a million different conspiracy theories.
There were military planes and there were no passengers. All kinds of crazy.
Hollow Earth elves came out and they. This is a Hollow
I'm
Earth
open to that theory mostly, to be honest with you. But there are a few. I think we can kind of push the noise to the side, and there are a few things that don't exactly add up to me, and they're all very publicly known and publicly acknowledged, so we can just focus on the things we know, like the 28 pages that was released that put a pretty direct link between some of the hijackers and Bandar Bush, the Saudi little prince boy. So that's you could call that an element of conspiracy if that is in fact true. That doesn't mean he necessarily directed it, but if he directed it, we're one hop away from George Bush suddenly. So that's that's a pretty strong connection of higher level knowledge, at least. That's all I'm saying. And there are some very strange financial put options that were placed that there is no doubt that people profited from. And who are those people is the question, because there's no doubt that there was a certain kind of foreknowledge, I think, from beyond what we're being told, beyond the people that have actually faced justice for this, which is basically nobody that's faced justice for this. There have been wars fought over it, but nobody is actually really, I guess there's there were a few people held in Guantanamo, and there was that 21st hijacker or 20th hijacker guy that they arrested. So some people have been arrested for 9/11, I suppose. But really, I don't think we've ever seen the full extent of whatever you might call the conspiracy or the facts of the event.
I mean, we did get justice on Osama bin Laden, unless, of course, you believe the conspiracy theory that he's still alive.
I had never heard that one. I've heard the theory that he had died much earlier. I've never heard that he was alive now.
All right, Chris Spangle, best for last. Let's go.
All conspiracies or 9/11?
You've already talked 9/11, so
all
I think
right.
all conspiracies.
Okay. So first, my favorite conspiracy is that Bill Weld was a libertarian.
Bam.
Okay. Amen.
Rim shot.
All right.
Well done, sir.
Here
well
we go.
done.
The
Good job, dude.
Second favorite conspiracy
I give
now
you credit
is
on this one. Yeah.
the second favorite conspiracy now is that Rodger has who was it? Joe. Never mind. I fucked the joke up. I will definitely entertain.
You had 10 minutes to think of this joke.
No, I know, and I had it written out in my head, but the Bill Weld one was better, so I'm glad I led with that.
That was good. That was good. I'll give you credit on that one. Man. Good job.
The conspiracy that, I am not a conspiracy theorist in the modern era. I just think it's too improbable for people just want to take credit for stuff. And, if somebody were involved in 9/11, after 20 years, somebody would have blabbed by now. I have read enough to, satisfy knowing what happened. It was just a failure of government security. Hilarious, I know, I'm sure. We can't believe that the government failed, but...
Right.
If you go back in time to the 60s and the foundation of the CIA, and you understand the Dulles brothers, and you understand the power of the banking system and the growing power of the CIA in the 60s, when John Kennedy comes along, he's pissed off the mob. John Kennedy says he's going to end the CIA after the Bay of Pigs fiasco, where essentially we were 6 minutes away from nuclear winter. Between the Russians and the Americans, because essentially what happened, Americans had put nuclear missiles right up against the border of the USSR, and so the USSR and Khrushchev sent missiles to Cuba, and as the missiles were coming into Cuba, the Americans were threatening to nuke everything, and so Kennedy, at one point, it got really intense one day during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and he looked at his brother, who was Attorney General Robert Kennedy, and said, I want you to go and work out a deal with the Russians. 6 months later, they removed those missiles from the borders of Russia, and Kennedy just picked up the red phone that was between the White House and the Kremlin and said, do you really want to go to nuclear war? Because I don't. And the two of them agreed.
I want you to do the Kennedy impersonation when you say that.
Do you really want to go to war?
There you go. That's all I wanted to fucking hear. All right.
And
not bad on the fly.
Thank you.
That was good. That was really good.
Voss, God. 20 years ago.
So he said, I'm sending my brother over
what
to
he
work
said,
out this deal, and
There you go.
they avoided nuclear war. And when he really reflected on it, and the best coverage of this is Oliver Stone's documentary on Netflix called The Untold History of America. Start with episode 11 with Woodrow Wilson, and then you have to jump back to 1. But you see the Cold War industrial complex that came from the Dulles brothers specifically, and Truman, and that's what Eisenhower was warning against. He was warning against the Dulles brothers and the CIA getting us into perpetual war. And Kennedy, after the Cuban Missile Crisis, was determined to get rid of the CIA.
Right.
And then he also wanted to reform the banking system and possibly end the Federal Reserve. He had pissed off the unions by going back on some of his promises and appointing Robert Kennedy Attorney General, who started busting up unions and the mob. And so they were pissed off. And so you had this recipe. And then you had a vice president in Lyndon Johnson who, if you've ever read the Robert Caro books, you realize what an evil piece of shit this guy was, and had been in government forever, was super well connected. And so Rodger Stone actually wrote a book about how Lyndon Johnson orchestrated the assassination of Kennedy so he could become president in coordination with the Dulles brothers and the mafia.
I interviewed Rodger Stone about that very book once.
Really?
Moving
Yeah.
along.
I mean, so it is not out of the realm of the possibility that this
Sure.
outsider president who was radically
yeah.
changing the way government operated by bringing in Harvard eggheads and was going to reform all these different things gets taken out because he was too powerful, because he was too well liked. And so he was removed. And I think that Robert Kennedy was assassinated by forces inside the government, as was Martin Luther King. Even though Martin Luther King, his power was on the decline, the FBI specifically was scared that he could coordinate a race war.
They told him to kill himself.
Right.
Literally. They
Right.
wrote him a letter
Right.
urging him to kill himself.
Yeah, the FBI, if you've looked up the letter that the FBI and Hoover sent King to kill himself, and they're the ones who told on him about his affairs and all this, like, they were blackmailing him. So
That's why, as much as I like conspiracy theories and I like to theorize and I like to entertain wild ideas, there is so much shit that is just straight up fact that we know that you can just focus on stuff like that and it's mind blowing. Like the Martin Luther King stuff is completely insane. The FBI had tapes of him like cheating on his wife and fucking women and stuff like that, and they tried to intimidate him, and then they wrote him a fucking letter telling him to kill himself. Like, how insane is that?
So the meat of the Kennedy conspiracy essentially is that the CIA and the FBI had a competition going with each other for control of the government, and so they used an FBI plant in Oswald, Patsy, so the FBI would get the blame. And this guy had been in the Soviet Union and Cuba, and he was an informant for the FBI, and then he ends up getting taken out 3 days after he kills Kennedy. But the people who actually killed Kennedy, now I'm not saying I believe this, but this is like the best working theory, is that the senator who formed the CIA with the Dulles brothers was Prescott Bush, and his son, George H.W. Bush, was off the
I've heard
coast
the
of
story.
Cuba.
Yeah.
He was running an oil rig off the coast of Cuba, and he was told, assassinate Kennedy and you will get whatever you want. And that's why he was appointed the youngest CIA director. He was basically appointed president by the powers that be, which usually leads back to like anti-Semitism once you really dive too deep.
They tried to make him president in 1980 when Reagan was just too damn popular.
Exactly. And
they inserted him as his running mate.
So
and
they
et cetera, et cetera.
contract Howard Hunt, who then Howard Hunt goes to Dallas with 3 other people, and they're the ones who actually kill Kennedy. And George H.W. Bush, in return, gets to be president. And now the way that they control people is not through assassinations. They control them by getting them into pedophile rings and getting them on tape, and like Jeffrey Epstein and Pizzagate and all that stuff.
So
that's the
again,
conspiracy.
going
Damn,
back
he
to the
tied this all the
original-
way back to Pizzagate. That was impressive.
Mark, hold on. Chris, so the original question is, where were you during 9/11? Mm-hmm. You're at a supermarket.
Eating? Is that, are you calling me fat, Johnny?
I don't know. Where were you?
Oh.
9/11. That was the question.
So on 9/11, I was at
you were
school.
going off on something cool, but like I just want to bring it back.
That's why I asked the question, did you want me to talk about 9/11 or did you want to talk about my conspiracies?
No, that was good. I loved it. But where were you on 9/11?
I was at school, and I was my first prep period. My first period was a prep period, and so I was in the journalism class, and my teacher came in and said, let's go to this other teacher who has a TV in her room, and we saw the tower like on fire, and then I go to physics class, and she had a TV, and we watched the second tower fall, and that's when like the whole class just went silent. And my birthday is September 9th, so I'd turned 18 2 days before. I had signed up for the draft on the 10th, and so like I was just personally scared because I thought I was going to be drafted. Like I had no idea who did it, and I went to work that day, and he let us go home early. Like the only thing we had sold that day was flags. It is really what propelled me into politics as well. Like the next night, I went to church, and I was an atheist, and so I went to church the next night, and it's really kind of what led me to being a Christian. So 9/11 is one of the most impactful, probably top 3 or 5 events in my entire life. And it's weird to like talk to adults who can vote who have no memory of 9/11.
Okay. Great story. You know what's funny? I have actually kind of a humorous story about this. I was in Hawaii, and I was doing training in Kauai, which is on the main, not the main island, but the Oahu island. And I was doing training, and we're out in the middle of nowhere, out in the woods, and our commander comes back. Marc just threw up. Anyway, so
untrue. I did not.
And our commander comes in and he says, the World Trade Center has just been hit by an airplane. And I'm like, wow, holy shit, everyone. And now, mind you, guys, we were in the mindset that we were on a mission, or this is a situation where we are training for war. So we didn't believe it. Nobody believed it. We're like, this guy's full of shit. Our commander's full of shit. And I talked to my LT, and I'm like, hey, sir, I think this is full of shit. And he's like, I think it's shit, too. And I remember finally, eventually, something happened where do you guys hear music?
No, that's Rodger vaping.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, I edited out a lot of vaping on that.
Okay.
I gotta
so
have nicotine.
basically,
Sorry, guys.
I'm out in the middle of the woods, and we hear this thing happening, and my lieutenant was like, "Hey, man, this is bullshit. It's part of our training to get us prepped up for the war, or for war, or whatever." And I'm like, "Okay, right on, whatever, fucking kill," because I was a fucking soldier. I didn't understand libertarianism. I didn't know what it was. I was a statist, you know. And it was mind-blowing when I went to the base where it was like desolate. You know what I mean? Like there was no cars anywhere. And it took like 4 hours. So if you wanted to come on post, you had 4 hours to get on post. And it was just incredibly crazy. And it was like, I mean, coming from the military, I would think that it was mind-blowing for me because I knew. It's like, we're going to fucking war, dude. Like, we're going to fucking war. And once I found out that this was true, it blew my mind. I'm sitting there watching the footage over and over again on the TV. I'm like, oh, man, we're going to fucking war. And people are going to die. People are going to fucking die. And why? Why are they going to die? And people are going to... It's sad, dude. Like, we have all these fucking guys... Who sign up for the military, not all of them for good intentions, but I think the majority of people who sign up for the military who are not aware of our libertarian ideals go into the military thinking they're going to do something good because they really believe in our country and they believe in doing the right thing and protecting people. And it was so sad to see just people crying. And tears everywhere. I mean, like, dude, all around post. I knew this guy. He was in the World Trade Center. My uncle lived there. And it was just horrific to see these beautiful people crying because of the devastation that has occurred in their lives. How can you, like, what do you do at that point? You know, like, we're fucking human beings and we value life. You know, and you see these good people who are dying. And it left an impression on me. And you know what? I'll tell you what, man. I felt in my heart that it was really difficult for me to handle it because I didn't know what to do. I mean, like, I knew that we were going to war. I knew something was going to happen. But I felt for the families of the people who had suffered. And there were so many people who knew people there. And it's just a tragic event. And you ask most libertarians now if they've experienced this, and they have no fucking clue about 9/11. I mean, I know we're old fuckers now. I mean, guys, let's face it, we're not fucking young pups. But this is important, and I think that we need to tell people that this was fucked up, man. And there was a lot of good people who did nothing, who did fucking nothing, and yet they had to pay with their lives for something our state had blowback. There was absolute blowback in the system, and this is why this happened.
Well, our response was to create 9/11s all over the world
Yeah.
for a bunch of other people. That because I mean, from their perspective, other people, when they see a missile shoot down their home or a building near them that kills a bunch of people, they're seeing the same fucking thing.
Right.
So that is exactly what creates. I mean, I'm agreeing with you, obviously, but that is exactly what continues to create this cycle of terrorism. It's why it exists and why there is so much resentment around the world. It's not because we're free. It's not because we have, I didn't mean to tie this into Michael Jackson. It's not because we listen to Michael Jackson, which is a separate conspiracy.
But you see, like, it's now led to a terrorism on Muslims now, like what we just saw in New Zealand. I mean, it's an ever perpetuating cycle of violence.
You're right. And the thing is, there were innocent people who done nothing wrong. They were just living their lives, going their day to day. And as much as like I'm an anarchist and I believe in no state, there was people who were in the military killed and have been killed by IEDs and all this other bullshit who have done nothing and were innocent in the sense that they were just believing in the propaganda of the state. And
yeah,
I
I've said before, like, the number one group that likes We Are Libertarians are veterans, and second is active duty military. Like, that's the number one job description of those who like We Are Libertarians.
Well, those people are good people. They don't mean wrong. I don't think they do. They just don't understand our philosophy.
No, I think those people have worked for the government and have seen the things that they got involved in the military for financial gain or for the myth of, talk about a conspiracy, like the myth of serving your country by going and killing people. I think they now look and go, everything I was told when I signed up was a lie, and I'm going to support Ron Paul. I'm going to support Gary Johnson. I want to know what libertarians...
And you're right. You're right, Chris. And like, that's the thing. Like, we have those people are not bad people. They just don't know any better. And the people in the military... There are people in the military to this day who call me up and be like, how's it going, man? And I'll be like, I'm a libertarian. We'll have that conversation. And
that's your first response. How's it going, man? I'm a libertarian.
Yeah. No, that's actually how it is. And I'm like, fuck you, you're a stated cocksucker. No, but I mean,
Johnny, are you okay?
always the gentle approach taken by Johnny.
Very gentle.
Hey, fuck you sadist cocksucker. How you been? I'm a fucking libertarian now.
Hear me out. No, hold on, guys. But those people are good people, and they are just they're not evil. They just have been brainwashed into the statist approach and how to handle things. And so I'm going to bring it to Rodger, because I think, Rodger, I think you could bring this home. My point is that these people are not bad, intuitively bad. I just think that we have not, it's part of the state and it's part of the culture that has caused this epidemic of statism.
But also, I agree with kind of what you're saying, but, to the people in these countries, to the people that see the United States as an invading force, rightly so, that are planting IEDs and fighting back, to them, perhaps justifiably, they do see a lot of those people as doing bad.
They
as
do.
part of that.
They do.
Well,
They do.
So it's all a matter of perspective.
So I think saying that they're not bad is very collectivist. I mean, there are certainly many people who join the military who do it for nefarious reasons. They want to, learn how to effectively kill people, or they want to go kill brown people, or even some who want to defend our country by creating, mass mayhem.
Rodger, please, can I just interrupt you? I never interrupt you, and I have utmost respect for you all the time. I don't think that's true, because every soldier that I've been friends with, all the guys that I've been friends with, that is not their objective. I think the majority of them are like, dude, we need to do something. I don't know what it is. And it's not about brown people. And I don't think that's what it is. I just think that they really are human beings and they really do care. I just think they've been just miseducated. And I think it's important for us to spread our message. Now, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So you keep saying majority and this and that, but what I'm saying are the outliers. I mean, you mentioned earlier that everybody in the military are they're great, they're doing it for good reasons, and that's just not true. I mean, there's 1.5 million people in the U.S. military, and there are definitely some people in the military who are in there for nefarious reasons.
Who's that assassin guy? Bradley Cooper. That guy just liked to kill people.
I mean, sure, there's probably several like that.
Chris Kyle.
But I think that the average person, I think you're right. I think the majority of people, the average person, is joining the military for good reasons. They've been misled into believing that they're doing something great for their country, or they're serving their fellow man, or whatever. Or it could be like Chris mentioned, for just financial gain. I mean, there's lots of reasons why people join the military that is not necessarily a bad reason. It doesn't certainly make them a bad person. But I think what does make someone in the military a bad person is someone in the military who follows an order that is immoral, whether it be illegal or not, strictly immoral, killing someone. We saw a lot of that in Afghanistan and Iraq. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of situations at Abu Ghraib. There were a lot of situations where normal, average, everyday people just did horrible, horrendous, things, abuses, murders, just because they were, quote, following orders. And that's where you separate the wheat from the chaff. That's where you separate these people who are just going to follow orders and blindly follow and do whatever they're told, or people who are going to stand up and say, no, I'm not going to do that. How many people did you hear about who ordered to do bad things that stood up and said, no, I'm not going to do that? It doesn't happen very often, especially in the military, because the military doesn't give you that option.
Right. You're right.
If you don't follow.
Mm-hmm.
So,
no, what I was going to say is point blank, Rodger, and I agree with you, and you're right in your ethical principles. And I'm with you 100%. But think about us as we have developed. You were a Republican at one point. You were a neocon, as I was. And we were wrong. And we have...
No doubt.
Okay? So, we have developed and understood how things work. But sometimes we need to have a little bit of compassion, I think, for people who can become the future Roger Paxtons or Johnny Rockets.
Yeah, and I'm certainly not saying that. I'm certainly not saying that just because somebody did something that was immoral or wrong that they can't overcome that. I'm certainly not saying that.
I like how you recognize that there can be no future Marc Clair. There can be only one. Moving on.
Well, you weren't in the military.
No, we just don't want any future Marc Clairs. That's the difference.
I don't want any future Marc Clairs the way I feel today.
But I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, anybody can turn their life around, even someone who's committed a horrible atrocity. I mean, sure, you should still, potentially look at them in a certain light because they've committed such an atrocity in their past. But I mean, there are people in jail who have done horrible things, who, I don't think should be in jail any longer because they've completely, changed or created some sort of recompense for what they did. So yes, anybody can overcome what they've done in the past. But my point was that you kind of made the case that basically everybody in the military is a good guy, and that's patently false. It's not possible. It's
I'm not
true.
saying that they're good people. All right, everyone has objectives or motives or whatever. I'm just saying the people I have known personally, and that I found friendship and honor. Nobody wanted to go to goddamn war. These people don't. I mean, like take you or Chris or Marc. Wake up, motherfucker. Every one of us, those guys in the barracks, I mean, we have talked and we've had heartfelt discussions. Dude, I don't want to go nowhere, man.
I knew many, I knew many people in the military at the time of 9/11. Many people, and there were several of them who were really stoked to go to war. So
That's
people,
a different.
there are
that's,
people who
Howie joined the army to go to war
reason.
to defend.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
in
there's-
his
Hey,
way, he just saw it
man.
as defending the nation or whatever.
No. What I'm getting at, though, I mean, good point, Roger.
Is that a Howie
There was
impression?
a big, huge influx of people wanting to come into the military because of 9/11. But what I'm saying is this is pre 9/11, and I don't think these people were bloodthirsty savages like a lot of. Hear me out. I don't think these people are bad. I think that they were just misdirected, and they didn't know where the enemy was. And I think a lot of these people thought, "I'm defending my country," and this is what they knew because they knew the brainwashing. I'm here for my country.
But just for percentage wise, with 1.5 million people in the military, there are going to be some bloodthirsty, crazy, psychotic people in the military.
Trust
so I
me,
think trying
I
to
knew a
paint a
couple
broad
of
brush.
them. Yeah.
Trying to paint a broad brush either way is just difficult. Now, are there good people in the military? Of course. Are there bad people in the military? Of course. My concern was that you seem to be painting kind of a broad brush.
That's
based
true.
On,
okay.
Based on your.
Okay. Well, the people I associated with. How's this, Roger? I'm going to be a little bit more laser focused. I think the people that I associated with were good people. The people I chose not to associate with were assholes. And they were that fucking gung-ho motherfuckers, high and tight, let's kill the motherfuckers, I don't give a fuck. And they were killers. And that's fine.
Absolutely.
And there's that they were there. And I'm not saying that they weren't there. I'm just saying.
But always remember, one bad apple spoils the bunch.
That's true.
So you're going
but that could be,
and the type of people who
and
gravitate toward military service or gravitate towards police service, generally they are going to be more on that spectrum of the warrior type, the type that wants to do those sorts of things. So, I mean, that's why we're seeing what we're seeing in the police forces today, because it's not the Mayberry type of cop anymore. You're getting more and more of those people who came out of the military. They went over there, they kicked some ass, they took some names. Now they want to come over here. Now they're trying to do the same thing.
Okay, I'm not denying that, and that's a good point. But all I'm saying is the people I associated with were good people, and I don't think they were like that. And I think and I think when we draw with broad strokes, like you were saying that all soldiers are evil is wrong. Because I think there's a lot of people who've been tricked into it, and as I was, and I was really good at it. And I knew my shit, and I was really good at the military. But it was a good experience for me. And yet, at the same time, I'm really sorry to the taxpayers' dollars that I'm an asshole. Fuck you. I'm sorry. I bailed, and for good reason, because I just didn't believe in the cause anymore. And that's what it's about.
So I've got a question for everybody here, and I'm going to start with Marc Clair since he's hungover and kind of spaced out. What would it take for you to join the U.S. military or join some military service to help defend your country, your state, your city, whatever? What kind of event would it take for you to do
Right
that?
now?
Yes, right now. If something were to happen today,
Oh my
what would
God.
that event need to be for you to?
I don't
pick up
know
a
if there's
gun and
any
join
event that could get me to do it right now.
them? Okay.
I mean,
That's a fair answer.
maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we could be okay. Maybe I'll try to think outside the box and expand my mindset.
That's a good question,
Maybe
Roger.
what if we are literally being invaded? What if the West Coast United States is literally being invaded, and there's like Chinese soldiers in Marina Del Rey coming in? I don't know if I would per se even join the military, but I suppose I could see myself joining with fellow human beings to defend my area from that invasion. So I guess
Great
in a
answer.
sense I would join the military in the sense that I would join with
And you
my
would be
fellow man
the
to defend our
only
area.
guy.
But I don't know if I would go to the post office or wherever you sign up for the army
Marc
and
Clair.
join the
Marc
military
Clair.
in that sense.
Marc Clair,
What?
you'd be the only guy who knew how to
Are you
shoot
the
a
Howie
gun.
of today, or are you trying to interrupt everybody? What's going on here?
I'm just being a dick. I don't give
Hey,
a fuck.
man.
Well, that's fine.
No, but I'm just saying, like, you'd be the only guy who knows how to shoot a weapon in fucking California.
Oh, that's not
There's-
true. I mean, what
There's
of
more
my
than
big
just
support-
one of people that own
Like
guns
one of
here. You'd
10.
be surprised. Well,
one
I
of
go
the
to the
big
range and
supporters of
there's
my-
fucking 20 people there waiting to shoot. You'd be surprised, even people across different political spectrums, a lot of people own guns that you wouldn't necessarily expect from their
Rachel Maddow.
their political beliefs.
I mean,
their
believe it
what?
or not,
Their racial profile.
There are
yes.
there are a lot of really big gun owners in California. Matter of fact, one of my big supporters owns a company in San Diego, Gunfighter Tactical, and on they will not. They have a no LE policy. They will not. Because a lot of gun shops have the ability to sell guns that they can't sell to civilians to law enforcement officers because, they have a shiny badge. They can buy guns that the average civilian can't.
Right.
But this guy says, nope, I'm not going to do that. I refuse to do it. If I can't sell it to a civilian, I'm not going to sell it to a law enforcement officer because these rules are bullshit. And I love that.
Cool.
So this
Cool.
guy who owns this company and I are actually working on adding a Second Amendment type podcast to the Pax Libertas lineup. So
Fuck
that's
yeah.
big.
That's awesome,
Nobody
dude.
has heard this news yet. So this is
Bam.
new news for
Bam.
everybody.
All right, Chris, you're
But
sleeping.
anyway, so back to those questions. I'm going to go to Chris now. Chris, what would it take for you to pick up a gun and join the military, or your fellow man to? Do something
It
like
would take an imminent threat to my life. I'm pretty close to a pacifist, both because of my religious and political beliefs. Like, I would never join the military to go fight in Afghanistan, and I didn't even World War II, like an instance like World War II, I would have a hard time joining the military to fight in that cause. But if it were like, if you've ever seen the movie Jericho, where the town next door is trying to invade us,
Yep.
and it's us or them, then I would join the fight because it would mean the lives of my family and community members and myself. But it would be a militia type deal, and probably not something that would happen in my lifetime. But it would be, I just think nonviolence is almost always the right approach unless it's your survival. Then you have a duty to protect your life, family, property, community, but not much more beyond that.
Well said, Chris. Well said. Johnny, what about you? What would it take?
You know what? I think
Just
it's,
the wrong bottle of whiskey on a Wednesday evening. That's what it would take.
I am not an alcoholic, but what I would have to say is
I don't
And I'm
remember
not an
accusing you
asshole.
of that. That's like someone just offering the information that they don't beat their wife with unprompted.
Yeah, if you're not an alcoholic, Johnny, I'm not an asshole.
Johnny, how are you today? I don't beat my wife. I don't know
I'm
what
not
you're
a
talking about. I'm not a sadist. What do you mean?
And Chris and Marc doesn't have a vagina.
I don't have a vagina. What are you talking about? Why would I?
yeah. All right.
Just because I have nice hair doesn't mean I have a vagina. I don't know why
yeah,
these things are
that's
being
what they all
conflated.
say.
Beautiful blonde vagina. I love it.
As Johnny would say, the curtains match the drapes.
That's what I said.
He said Johnny has do the curtains
That's what he
match the
said,
drapes.
I
I'm
think so,
like,
yeah.
wait a minute, the curtains are the drapes.
Oh, man. All right, so Johnny, the question goes to you now.
You know what? I think we're at the time where we might need to start doing it now. And I think that there's enough evidence.
Joining the military?
No, like now. Like start fucking being fucking all Waco and shit. And, like what is the... I don't know.
This
I
is
mean,
the time when you
all
say
Waco and
this is
shit?
probably the
I'm-
time when you
you-
start
you
saying
skipped
you're
a
an
few steps.
alcoholic, so you have plausible deniability of these statements.
Right. Nice, Chris.
Yeah, I would recommend admitting your alcoholism at this point.
I said
All right,
things when
all
I was
right, so-
drunk.
all right
I'm a
there,
changed man.
all right,
So to be
Chris,
clear, Johnny is calling for full revolution. That's what he's calling for.
there might be... No, I'm being honest here, though. There might be some legitimacy behind that.
I used to have Johnny. I used to have somebody on my show named Maya, who's now in Antifa, by the way, but who basically made that argument
Shut the
that
fuck up.
I'm
Shut
telling you,
shut the fuck up.
her
I'm not
argument.
talking about going to war now, but from a legal standpoint, we have the right to initiate force at this point. We are far beyond the scope of what we have every right to fucking fight back. Now, to get everyone in support of that, that's a different story. So if you want to go and fight the fucking battle, you're gonna die. But
Who
there
are you
is-
going to fight against?
I don't know. Chris Spangle's fucking.
I think you should know.
organization.
Before
I don't know.
I just want to know
But
the
here's the
target.
problem
I'm
with
just
violence,
Take up arms here.
and this
Like,
is the argument that I always used to make against
I
Maya
am
when
not
she
a
would.
pacifist, and I will fucking fight. That's
But
the
here's-
difference.
But here's the problem with that argument, Johnny, because Maya used to make the same argument that we're far beyond the point, and so violence against police or any other government agency is perfectly warranted because they
don't-
violated our NAP. Hold on. the problem with the argument that I would always have against that is that when you look at what this shooter just did in New Zealand, what that does is it doesn't serve your cause. Violence always ends up backfiring on the cause that you're fighting for and makes the people that you associate with look more dangerous. But when you use nonviolent tactics,
it's called media, and guess what? They have no problems using that against you.
Sure.
All right. So what I'm saying is, it's a no-win situation for us. We can sit here and be peaceful and sing Kumbaya. I don't know when the right time is. I don't know. But all I know is if there's a fucking cop who's trying to take me in for something I didn't do anything wrong. It was a victimless crime. I'm going to fucking defend myself. And I hope every one of us does the same thing.
I think you certainly have the right. I think that there's a question between when do you have the right to use.
I don't know, man. And here's the thing. I don't know.
No, I'm saying you do. You do have the right to use force if you're being, let's just say, in the philosophical sense, you are smoking a joint, which is almost irrelevant in 2019. You're smoking a joint in your house, clearly on your own property, just to make it clear.
Exactly.
And you come and get arrested for that act. You absolutely have the right to kill the officer and fight back.
But you'd be pretty stupid to do so.
Yeah, you'd be pretty stupid to do so. Exactly.
If you look at what Martin Luther King Jr. did from 1956 to about 1967, in 10 years, with nonviolent action, he took the civil rights movement. He started the momentum. I mean, he and the people that he led with. It went from no black people in the South, in southern states, were registered to vote, to by the time 1970 hit, you were electing mayors in major cities across the United States. You eventually, 40, 50 years later, had a black president. It started the forward momentum. What Martin Luther King Jr. understood is that the white people in the North may not join with black people in the South to give them their rights, but once they saw the violence perpetrated and that they weren't fighting back, they were the victims of fire hoses and German shepherds, that's when white people in the North went, listen, I may not want to live next to those people, but I'm certainly not okay with that.
I think
and so nonviolence is the only option that we have, and you've seen it in places like...
that's bullshit.
No, it's not bullshit. It's the only legitimate way to achieve political power.
We have been intruded upon, and we have been aggressed upon consistently, and they do it in such a small matter.
The problem, Johnny, is who you're being aggressed upon is everybody around you.
You have a podcast.
It's your neighbors, it's your family, it's the bad ideas of almost everybody that we know in our personal lives. So there's really no one to fight here, because if you just start physically fighting your oppressors, so to speak, no one's going to defend you.
The reality is you have a podcast network, and no government agency is shutting your podcast network down because you're able to speak. Like, the idea that we live in the most oppressive country on earth is just not true. And so you look ridiculous when you use violent means to fight back.
I think I'm going to have to agree with Chris on this one, and I hate to say it, but the means... So your ends have to justify... I'm sorry, your means justify your ends. Your ends don't justify your means. So you cannot use violence if you're trying to get to a nonviolent means.
Right.
And that's what we all want. We all want nonviolence. Okay. And if you use violence to get there, you've destroyed your means to get to your end.
But we have been oppressed upon. And when do we call that? When do we say?
Sure, we all have. But it's by our friends and family.
No.
So when do we start shooting postmen because they're taking government money? I mean, that's basically what you're saying. Let's shoot the postman when he brings us our mail because he's stealing our money.
Okay, you know what? Do not
However, we
put
probably
words
should
in
shoot
my
the
mouth
postman separately.
like Chris, because you know what? I'm more on this anti-state bullshit than most people are. What I'm going to say is this. I don't know when the right time is to do it, but it would generally be justified right now to fight back. I don't know when's the right answer. I don't know. And we have been oppressed. Our Constitution is nothing. We have nothing. We have no liberties, and people fucking voted away every day. So I don't know what the right answer is, but all I got to say is think about it. Make a judgment, and you got
think about joining me in our conflict and get back to me in the morning.
Seriously.
Always remember, the means justify the ends never justify the means.
But me being a libertarian doesn't mean I'm a pacifist. And that is the biggest.
Right, of course not. I don't think any of us are pacifists
Okay,
here.
well,
I think that, if any of our family or friends were in danger, every
Chris
one of us would pick up a
Spangle
weapon.
just said it was a pacifist. I am not. And
no,
if
he
somebody,
said he was almost a pacifist, and he said that if his life were in danger, he would do something to stop that violently.
Okay, fine, but I am not a pacifist. And
I
if somebody is taking away my
I think
liberty,
that much is clear.
I think we've established this. Yes.
All right. Well, anyways, though, it's Johnny Rocket here with the League of Liberty.
It would be funnier if you just tossed to like a generic ad right there, like an ad for like Harry's razors.
I don't think they'd want to be on this one. They might cancel their contract.
Anyways,
and that's why we should take up arms and overthrow the government. And now, let me tell you a little something about Harry's razors.
So listen, John Kennedy was killed by our government.
Okay, there you go. Good job. All right, guys. Well, anyway, so this is Johnny Rocket, always launching ideas with the League of Liberty of podcasters, and hope to hear you next month, or hope to listen to us next month if we do a show. Are we guys going to do a show?
I hope so. Otherwise, I'm going to come over and beat your ass.
Let's hope. All right, anyways, so thank you guys very much, and we'll see you next month. Rock and roll.
Liberty!
Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah! Come on, Johnny.